Welcome to my channel. Please enjoy the video. This is part 2, the DeBarge family secrets. Secrets in our home. Ederline DeBarge continues to leave her daughter Bunny and Bobby with their dad as she continues to go to her church night services. To make matters worse, Robert DeBarge allegedly took Bobby into the room and did the same things he was doing to Bunny, having full-fledged sex with her, and left Bobby laying on the bed without any clothes on as he fell asleep. So Bobby was physically and sexually abused by his father, which made matters worse. So the question is, how is all of this going on? How is a dad molesting his daughter and his son, and the mother absolutely turns her head and acts as if nothing is happening or going on? Well, Bunny started running her mouth at school. She was talking to one of her classmates, and you know how little kids are. They think they're grown when their parents are not around. Anyway, they began talking about boys. So this little classmate of hers got to saying how she has a boyfriend, and she's gonna kiss her boyfriend, and Bunny got to telling her, girl, I know all about kissing. I know all about sex because my dad has sex with me. My dad kisses me a lot, and we have lots and lots of sex. So her classmate responds, your dad has sex with you? Bunny looked around and then she looked at the girl and said, no, I'm just joking. That's not true. I was just playing a game on you. Her classmate says, no, you weren't. It sounds real the way you were explaining it. However, I'm still going to tell my mother because this sounds very disgusting. No father is supposed to be having sex with his own daughter. Bunny said, damn, I said I was just joking. You promised not to tell your mother? The girl said, okay, I won't tell her, I promise. Anyway, that little girl went home and ran her mouth and told her mother what Bunny was thinking. The little girl's mother immediately got in touch with Ederline. When Ederline learned about this, she didn't say a thing. She waited. Waited until Bunny got home from school. She approached Bunny and asked her, Bunny, what is this business you're telling people at school about your father, what he's supposed to be doing to you? Bunny immediately exploded. She started hollering and crying, Mama, he is hurting me. This has been going on. This is all true. So Ederline immediately walked out of Bunny's room, went into their bedroom where her husband was watching the football game, and asked him and said, honey, you know Bunny said that you're having sex with her? He said, that's a goddamn lie, Ederline. That ain't happened. That ain't true. Y'all know how pedophiles lie. Always in denial and gonna say, no, I didn't. I didn't do nothing. I'm just innocent. This child is lying on me. Robert immediately got up, walked around Ederline, and gave Bunny a right hook right in her face, and continued to punch and slap her until he made her nose bleed. As Ederline quietly stood there and said, Robert, please don't continue to hit my baby. Stop hitting her, Robert, and continued to shield her. He grabbed Ederline by the back of her neck and threw her into the wall. Then got on top of Bunny, thrown her down on the floor, and began to beat her. Now, at the time when this was going on, it is not stated right then and there if Bobby ever told his mother about the sexual abuse that he also got from his father. Bobby DeBarge accepted the most of the beatings. He was beat and sexually abused by his father. So when his little brothers came along and they were born, the baby boy named James DeBarge. James DeBarge was said to have been Robert's favorite son, and no one really knows why. But this is what was stated. He was the favorite son out of all of the sons. So it seems that Bobby DeBarge had a real hate-anger for his little brother James. James didn't know anything. He had just came into the world. He was a little bitty child, a little bitty baby. From the time Ederline had him until he, got older, it seems that every time Ederline turned her back, or the father was not there, or the other children were not looking, Bobby was really mean to James. He started off physically hurting him, like pushing him down the stairs, pinching him, holding his nose, making him stop breathing for a couple of minutes, just doing terrible things to him. And then that's when it turned sexual. But rewind the track. Bobby sexually abused his brother Tommy first. It seems that all of the sexual abuse that Robert DeBarge was doing to his son Bobby rubbed off on him, and he became a predator himself because he started molesting Tommy. Like Tommy would get out of the shower, he would look at Tommy naked, he would try to get in bed with Tommy. One day he asked Tommy, can I jerk you off? And Tommy was like, what is that? He didn't know what it was. Anyway, Bobby put himself onto Tommy and started playing with his privates and then just went full-fledged and molested his own brother. I don't want to get into the graphic details, guys, but yes, Bobby raped Tommy. And Bobby eventually told Adeline about what he finally witnessed about his sister and their father having sex. Yes, he said, Mom, it is true. Dad is having sex with Bunny. But Bobby never told his mother, Mom, he's having sex with me as well. But this is something that Adeline would learn later in life after her husband passed away. And so the cycle just kept repeating itself. It was said that the father molested as many of the boys as he possibly could, and also Bobby did the same as well. It was also even stated that Bobby and Bunny had some type of girlfriend-boyfriend relationship, incestual relationship. So guys, in that DeBarge movie, y'all saw on the scenes, if you saw the movie, that it was made to look like Bunny DeBarge was the only family member that you seen in the movie who their father, Robert Sr., was sexually only abusing in the film, okay? But he abused at least 5 of those boys, okay? Bunny was the only girl, so the rest were boys. And he did this to his sons, guys. And it was so bad that when Bunny grew up and she had her first daughter, she came home and found her husband molesting and having sex with her daughter as well. And the brothers were telling her, Bunny, you need to take a drink, honey. You need to do some coke. You just need to calm down. You know, this is not a big deal. The brothers thought that this stuff was normal because it happened to them. And they thought, you know, just calm down, Bunny. You know, this goes on. This happens in our family, you know. And so Bunny was like, oh, okay. She was upset to find out that her husband was having sex with their daughter. But she was listening to her brothers like, oh, okay, y'all right. Y'all right. And so the cycle also repeated itself as well again. Because when Bunny's daughter grew up, she grew up and she hated her mother. She couldn't forgive her mother for letting her own father hurt her. So it kind of made Bunny's daughter feel like, you know, her mother didn't protect her. But guess what? So back in those days, it seemed like Adeline didn't protect Bunny her damn self. So remember, guys, when we discussed in part 1, was that the little birdie on the Kirby came back and had already told Adeline how they stated that Robert got his ass kicked for having sex with that lady's child and that Robert was in fact a pedophile. She knew. So right here, I'm sorry, Mama Adeline, I cannot give you a pass because you are fully aware. So when you started hearing things about stuff going on in your home and your daughter begging you to let her go to church with you, honey, the red flags and antenna should have went up in your head. Y'all remember what I told y'all? Black men who get molested as black boys, young black boys, they can't just come out and tell their mother that a man hurt them. Not only that, their own father. We all know he was physically abusing those boys and beating their asses on a regular basis. That he was really doing sexual things to them as well. But my thing is, how did Adeline let 5 of her boys get molested and she didn't notice anything? She didn't notice anything that was going on at all. They didn't see any funny things going on. I'm not going to buy this. So yes, Bobby was physically and sexually abused by his father. And in turn, Bobby did the same thing to James and Tommy and, you know, the rest of the brothers. But no surprise, this DeBarge abused and tormented led to some troubling times for James as well. So remember what I told you guys about symptoms and child molestation. Bobby DeBarge got arrested. He ended up being sentenced to 5 years on some drug trafficking charges for his role in trying to smuggle some goddamn drugs across the country. Now, I received questions about Bobby DeBarge, and people were asking me, do you believe that he was bisexual? Of course he was. He raped his own brothers. Okay? He molested his young brothers. Of course he was. Okay? But how do we look at this? How do we say his father did this to him, so he did this to his younger brothers? We can't say that this is still normal, but how do we dictate this? How do we say Bobby's a monster or Bobby's not a monster? This is very hard to say, guys, the way that this went on in the household. And this goes on a lot. It's just not talked about. It goes on in non-famous households as well. But to answer the question, in my opinion, Okay, so the movie, I didn't watch the whole movie, guys, but it seems that Bobby never came out in that movie. But in reality, there are rumors that he had several relationships with men before he got married to his wife named Terry. And it seems that the movie overlooked that particular part completely, because officially Bobby did in fact contract HIV from using needles for drug use. But rumors have long swirled that he contracted the virus for having sexual relationships with gay men. So we don't know for sure if it came from the drugs or if it came from the needles or possibly even both. And that's why I asked this question, guys. Was this fate for Mrs. Adeline or was this karma? Because this was a horrible thing. To have met a man, calling a goddamn army base, and not even getting the one man that you were truly talking to, and you were really feeling him. But then you ended up marrying a man named Tea DeBarge, and this is not even the man that you were speaking to on the phone, honey, and you didn't even know that you were talking to a monster on the other side of that phone. So it's just my opinion, guys. There is a lot of illness and sickness going on in the family, because when things were happening to Adeline's son and her daughter, she did not get them any counseling or any help. And I still don't believe they have that. And I think in the back of my mind, they're so confused about what Robert did to them. They feel that this is possibly normal and this is how their family should be ran. That's just my opinion, guys. There are a lot of families who believe in incest. There are a lot of families who practice incest. Okay? This is regular to them. So like the behaviors, guys, like such as James, like in 2012, James DeBarge, he was in prison after being arrested for assault with a deadly weapon, and he was arrested for drug charges as well. He went to prison, he did his time, and he was released back in 2015. You know, he kept her pregnant. He had all these babies with this woman. And when my favorite, and I'm sure it's all of you favorites as well, okay? Bobby is still my favorite, okay? And also Tommy. But anyway, so when Elle DeBarge was born and when James was born, the mother and father, they would argue back and forth in some kind of way. This lady always kept a big ass hot boiling pot of water on the stove for whatever reason. I don't know if it was to warm the house, but I'm kind of believing this, that they didn't have no heat. Robert's ass didn't have no job. He didn't want to fucking work. Okay. He wasn't taking care of the children and his wife like he was supposed to. He was out with other women and making other babies with them and taking their food stamps and their aid checks, and they were taking care of his ass. Robert DeBarge, in my opinion, was not a stand-up dad or a husband anyway. So finally, after Bobby exclaimed to his mother, Adeline, "Yes, Mom, this is true. Dad is having sex with Bunny." You know, she packed up the children and packed up everything and decided to leave and to go down, you know, to another part of Michigan with her sister and stay with her sister, and everything was going good. The boys were living. Bunny was more happier. It just seemed like she got her children back. You know, they were able to be themselves. However, they were still suffering from the tragic events that happened, and no counseling was ever rendered to these children. However, they were taken out of that environment of being around their father and having to, you know, face sexual abuse every single day. Seemingly, but not quite, guys, because if you listen to what I was saying about the information that went on, remember, Bobby began molesting the little boys. Bobby began molesting his little brothers. So no matter where they went, he was still molesting these little boys. They were still suffering. And this is what I'm not understanding, how all of this shit went on. Adeline, her sister's husband, nobody else noticed these things that was going on in the home. They were even taken out of the environment with their husband, which didn't really do any good because Bobby became the predator of the family. And so some kind of way, it makes me feel deep in my heart that Adeline DeBarge was really desperate to be with her husband. She wanted to be with her husband regardless of the situation. Once again, guys, the boys, Bobby, Tommy, none of them never opened up their mouth and told their mother when this was occurring, "Mom, he's gotten us too. He's gotten our assholes." You know, they've never, ever told her that, because it seems like some kind of way she got in touch with the pastor of the church, and she was telling, "I need to tell the pastor what this man has been doing. He's been having sex with my daughter. He's a child molester. He needs savior. He needs to go to church. The pastor needs to lay hands on him. The pastor needs to pray for him." Some kind of way, Okay, she could have went to another church by her sister's house. She decided to go to the church that she was going to, baby, and when she was with him in the neighborhood, okay? So I guess she was being desperate, and she thought, okay, if I can get him to go to church and get prayer, he'll stop being a pedophile to our daughter, and his sins will possibly be washed away. Adeline, I'm here to tell you today, baby, because you let those things happen, you went back and took your children back into that same environment. Show those boys, especially Bobby, that it is okay, perfectly okay. And they didn't have to explain to you about being sexually molested by their own dad. Like I said, boys don't tell that. How do a boy tell his mother that? That is very hard for a boy to do because one day he's going to be a man. And this is why I believe, guys, this is the reason that a lot of boys grow up with these secrets and it ends up turning them into a sexual predator and rapist and all of these things that go on in society because no one heard their voice, or they were going to be looked at as funny or you're gay or something like that, because that's what they were trying to say about Bobby being bisexual. It shouldn't matter. His father gave him no choice. But anyway, so, Adeline got in touch with the pastor, and, her husband found out where she was staying with the sister, and the sister was like, he can't come in here, girl. He ain't welcome in here. She like, well, why you being funny? She like, being funny? I don't want him nowhere around my niece. And this is a goddamn shame because Adeline didn't even feel like, I don't want him around my goddamn daughter. She takes her ass outside and he gets in her goddamn ear again. They ended up getting in the car and his punk ass probably start crying. Adeline, I'm so sorry and all this. And he knows how to hit her spots and get her to feel pity for him. Just get the children and come back home. Okay, so it ended up, Adeline went and packed up all the boys' stuff and, packed up Bunny's things and said, we're going home. Your dad's going to go to church. He's going to get saved. He's going to become a bishop. We are going to work this out as a family. Adeline told her, hell no, I ain't going back to that house with that man or you. So yes, Bunny's name is Adeline as well. So I'm going to call her Bunny so I don't want to confuse you guys. But anyway, so, Bunny was like, Auntie, I'm staying with you. Auntie like, yeah, that's right, because I don't want my niece nowhere around that monster. So, they left, and she actually took her sons back into that environment, in which you guys should know that the sexual abuse did continue. But it didn't happen as soon as they immediately returned back. Anyway, Adeline just kept on stalking Bunny and calling Bunny, telling her, your dad really misses you. I miss you. Your brothers miss you. Why don't you just come home? And Bunny was doing so good in the environment she was in with her aunt, and she felt safe. And then Adeline just kept hounding her to come back. And so they did say that, when Bunny ended up going home, for some reason, she ended up going back to the house, that the sexual abuse kind of calmed down and the physical abuse calmed down towards her. However, he did give her a backhand one last time due to something happening with the Abney family, which is their mother's side of the family. The uncle supposedly, cursed him out and told him, you can't come to our house. You're not welcome to any family functions, such as a barbecue or something like that, because he had to go and pick them up. They didn't want his ass around. They didn't want him at any functions. So, when you getting out the car and you come to pick up your wife and your children, you have to knock on the door. They didn't have cell phones back then, So the uncle cursed him out and, gave him a little bit of his, what he wanted to tell his ass when he saw him. So, they ended up going back home, and that was the last time he really hit Bunny. He said, you're embarrassing me, and lied on me to the uncle and the family, and I got cursed out. So he slapped Bunny once more, guys. Why didn't you just slap the uncle when he was talking crap to you, Robert? Why would you wait to get home to slap your own daughter? So guys, this family is full of curses. This family is full of sexual abuse, full of drugs, full of evil, full of everything. And it seemingly started off with Robert Sr. But we don't know what happened to Robert Sr. as a child as well, and why the mother came out to say that her son was not right in the head. I'm sure he was just not born that way. I'm sure some things went on in her household as well. So think about it, guys. This woman had 10 children with a flamboyant child molester, and by her own admission, she knew he was abusing those kids because he showed her who he really was when they first got married. He started being abusive towards her and whooping her and knocking her upside her head. So to ladies, when you're in a relationship with a man and you have children with him, please believe that if he's going to start knocking you upside your head, he will end with knocking your children upside their head as well if you don't do something in the first time he tries to put his hands on you. Now, seemingly back in that time, I know that this is true. However, I'm not going to make any excuses for Mrs. Adeline, because being a mother and having that mother instinct, doesn't matter what time of day you're living in, you are supposed to protect your children. Even if you couldn't protect yourself from getting beat up by this man, at least don't let him harm your children, because children are innocent. They had nothing to do with this. You chose to be with him, and you chose to keep opening up your legs, honey, and letting him receive you and come all on you and give you more children. So some of y'all might say, you know, that she couldn't leave her man and it was not that good back in the days, and what was she going to do with all those children? She had no education. She was just young when her father died, and, you know, she really didn't have any parental guidance herself. But, you know, when somebody is causing that much danger to your children and you don't want to have your children to go through this, you know, it just seems to me that she was just lazy and full of excuses, and she wanted to keep having that pervert children, and it messed up every last one of those kids' lives, baby, and probably went over to her grandchildren as well. Don't think that nothing didn't happen to the grandchildren. We were not there, but I wouldn't put it past, baby. It's called family curses, and they're very, very hard to break. I don't care how famous you get or how much money you make. Those curses continue to grow because those urges and those impulses, especially with it being all boys, and Bunny was the only girl, that's kind of a hard thing to break. Molestation, in my opinion, continues to go on with the DeBarge family today. It does in other families. It does in mine. You know, those things are hard. And like I told you guys, there is really no cure. There's no cure for that. There's no pill that you can take to stop being a child molester. Once the seed has been planted into you and you receive that seed and you allow it to grow in your heart and you become that person, the person who did it to you, you become one of those people, that's the end of the life for you. Look at Robert Sylvester Kelly, okay? They never got that boy no counseling. That man paid his mother off $5,000 not to show up to court to have him arrested. I'm sure had he been arrested, then R. Kelly's mother, Joanne Kelly, would have been able to get counseling for her son with that $5,000. My thing is, what the fuck did Joanne Kelly do with that $5,000, guys? That's the question we should be asking. But however, I'm comparing these stories to that story. And then just as well as LaToya Jackson coming out, saying what she said about her father, Joe Jackson. To me, guys, it is all the same stories, just different people's names. Okay? So later on after that, you know, it just seems like, okay, she claimed, you know, she wanted to have all these biracial children. This is just my opinion. She was in love with this man. But if you guys see, she never talked about the black Robert Barnes that she met, and she called him, and this was the man that you wanted to talk to. And you ended up talking to this white man on the phone at the army base, and you had no idea how he looked or what his character really was. But I seen, Mama D, you found out in the end about the Robert DeBarge that you spoke to on the phone. Because I believe, guys, had she corrected him in the beginning and said, no, I don't want to talk to you, I need to talk to Robert Barnes, not Robert DeBarge, this probably would have never occurred. And yes, the children ended up being superstars and being famous, and they have really God-sent, blessed voices and everything. But baby, they did not need to come into this world and suffer at the hands of the man who brought them here with his sperm. Okay, Robert DeBarge. And this lady did not protect her kids, in my opinion. There's a lot more, and they have several books out, guys. I guess I'm going to just give myself a Christmas present and order all of these books. I'm even going to order Demetrius Smith's book. And we're going to be, you know, doing some podcasts, and I'm going to be reading these stories to you guys because, you know, we need to get into these books and just see what the author really has to say. We already know their character. Let's just see what they say when they write their books. Anyway, guys, I'd like to thank you guys for watching. I wanted to break this down and make a part 2. And this is going to be the end of the DeBarge's story. I'd like to thank you guys.